As you can tell, there's several different types of mass airflow sensors that you might potentially have in your vehicle. Not all vehicles are even going to have a mass airflow sensor. Hey friends, it's Len here from 1A Auto. We're going to start off talking about common symptoms that you might find if you're having an issue with your mass airflow sensor. Of course, if you need any parts, check us out at 1aauto.com. Now let's roll into talking about some symptoms that you might have if you are having an issue with your mass airflow sensor. The first thing that you probably notice would be a decrease in your fuel economy. Everybody's paying attention to that these days. Other than that, you might find that you have a check engine light that pops up on the dash. If you have a scanner, you could pull the code and it might pop up something saying that you have a P0101 or even anything through a P0104. Any of those could mean that you have an issue with that mass airflow sensor. You might also find that when you try to start your vehicle, it doesn't seem like it starts right. Possibly you have an extended crank, or even it doesn't want to start at all. Sometimes it starts up and then it stalls right out. Sometimes you might find that you have a misfire condition. You're in the vehicle and you can see your RPMs going up to the 2s, down into the 1s somewhere, back up into the 2s, and it just doesn't seem like it's idling right. It has a misfire or a rough idle. Aside from that, with the vehicle running, if you were to get out of it and run over to that tailpipe, you might find that you have some black smoke coming out of there. That means you have a running rich condition. Essentially, there's too much fuel getting pumped into the engine, it's not getting burnt up properly, and it's getting shot out that tailpipe. And of course, you might happen to find as you're driving down the road, if you need to jam on that gas pedal to gain some acceleration, it feels as though it hesitates for some reason. Usually that's because there's an improper mixture of air and fuel inside the engine, and it's not combusting properly. Now, if you found that you had any of these symptoms and you happen to find that the mass airflow sensor was the issue, go to 1aauto.com, order yourself a brand new one, have it shipped directly to your door for easy installation. It's extremely important for the engine's performance for the mass airflow sensor to be functioning properly. Inside of the engine, it has to have the proper air-fuel mixture getting compressed inside of the combustion chamber by that piston. While it's being compressed, it's going to get sparked up by the spark plug, creating power coming from the engine. And that ratio for optimal combustion in the engine is 14.7 parts air to 1 part fuel. If it's off even just a little bit, you're going to find that you have a running condition. The mass airflow sensor is going to work in conjunction with other sensors that are located on or around your engine. They're going to take some electrical readings. The mass airflow sensor is going to take a measurement of current and resistance. It's going to communicate that to the car's computer. At that point, the computer can figure out exactly how much fuel it needs to be sending to the combustion chamber to match with the amount of air getting drawn into the engine. If the mass airflow sensor's sensing agent is dirty or damaged in any way, it's possible that it won't be able to relay the proper information to the car's computer. When this happens, the computer might try dumping a little bit less fuel into the engine. That's going to create a lean condition. And when that happens, you're going to find that you have a little bit of spitting, backfiring, and maybe even the car doesn't want to start on you. Or the mass airflow sensor might try to tell the computer that it's actually drawing more air into the engine. When that happens, the computer is going to try to pump a little bit more fuel in there, in which case it's going to create a running rich condition. That's where you're going to find that you have black smoke coming out the tailpipe, your check engine light, of course, and you might even find that you have an issue with the catalytic converter. By the way, catalytic converters are extremely expensive to replace. So if you find that you have a check engine light on and it's telling you that you have a running rich condition or an issue with the mass airflow sensor, it's definitely something that you want to fix ASAP, saving yourself a little bit of money. Now let's talk about the location of your mass airflow sensor. Generally, on vehicles, you're going to find the mass airflow sensor located extremely close to your air filter housing on the air intake system. The reason why it's located in this area is because it has to be able to measure the amount of air and the density of air getting drawn into the engine through that air filter, making its way all the way up. The mass airflow sensor is going to make its calculations, figure out exactly what's going on, and communicate it to the computer. Now let's talk about how a mass airflow sensor could go bad. Maybe it's dirty. As I mentioned, it's located extremely close to the air filter. The air is going to have to get drawn through that air filter. If it's dirty or clogged, it's possible that dirty air could be making its way past that air filter and accumulating on the sensing agent of the mass airflow sensor itself. It might be damaged in some way. Now, if it's out in the open like this and you happen to bonk it while you're working underneath the hood, you could have cracked it in some way. If it's cracked, there's a possibility for moisture to make its way in. Keep in mind, there is a circuit board inside here that's supposed to be able to keep track of things and transmit it to that computer. If moisture makes its way in and it causes corrosion, it's going to cause resistance, and it's not going to know what's going on. Something that's a little less common is you want to make sure that there's no dry rotting or cracking. Any place where something can flex and bend, there's the possibility that there might be some sort of crack in this area. You just want to give that a close look. The next thing that I would do would be to move along to checking that mass airflow sensor itself. Like I said, it's located right on the air filter housing. We'll come right over and disconnect the electrical connector first. On this one, there's a red locking tab underneath this area. I'll unlock this, find the squeeze tab, and disconnect the electrical connector. Once you do, you want to pay attention to the connector and the mass airflow sensor itself, where it connects together. Look to see if you can see any colors in there. If you do, it's probably corrosion. That's going to cause resistance, and it's going to cause an issue. If you have corrosion in there, you need to make sure you clean it out or repair something. With that said, this one looks fine. I'll set it aside. We'll continue on to removing the mass airflow sensor. Most times, you're going to find that you have two bolts holding it in place. We're going to remove both of these bolts, and then we'll carefully slide this out of the air filter housing. You want to be extremely careful because the mass airflow sensor does have a sensing agent inside, and it's extremely delicate. Looking inside this area, which would be closest to where the air filter was, you can see the sensing agent. Have a look inside there. It's going to be a little bit hard to see, but if you see a little metal piece that comes across, that's the sensing agent. That's where the air is going to get rushed by, and it's going to start metering to see exactly how much air is getting drawn into the engine. It's important that this area inside there is clean and free of any debris. If you see any type of gunk buildup inside there, some people might try to clean it. You have to be extremely careful when you clean it. If you use the wrong detergent, or if you use some sort of brush or even a screwdriver for some reason, you're going to cause some extreme damage to the mass airflow sensor, and it's probably not even going to function at all. Most times, it just makes sense to go ahead and order yourself a brand new one. We sell them at 1AAuto.com, ship fast and free right to your house. Obviously, the installation is going to be fairly simple overall, but before we get into that, let's just have a look at what it looks like when you try to clean it. Before we get into cleaning this, I need to mention a couple things. Some vehicle manufacturers, such as Toyota, don't recommend cleaning your mass airflow sensor. They only recommend replacing it. It's a quick note. Also, whenever you're doing something like this, make sure you're wearing hand and eye protection at all times. Now let's get into a quick clean. We'll make sure we're using the proper mass airflow sensor cleaner right here. Make sure when you're spraying it, you're spraying away from your face, and keep in mind, as you spray in, something might try coming out. At this point, I'll use a little bit of compressed air. While I'm doing this, you want to be extremely careful. Too much pressure coming from the compressed air could damage that sensing unit as well. So when we do this, we'll kind of do it from a distance. All I want to do is try to dry off the cleaner that I put on there and inspect it. Now that we just finished cleaning this one, let's have a look at it compared to the brand new one. Looking at the sensing agent right there, you can tell that it really didn't matter how many times I tried to clean it down, it still didn't come out as clean as the brand new one. Now let's quickly talk about how to replace your mass airflow sensor. It's going to be fairly easy on most passenger vehicles. Go ahead and locate it on that air intake. Disconnect the electrical connector. Remove any hardware that's holding the mass airflow sensor to the air intake. Slide it out of position and compare it to your brand new one from 1AAuto.com. Assuming it looks perfect, go ahead and slide the brand new one right into position, making sure that you have the sensing agent facing towards where the air filter would be located. Resecure it with the mounting hardware. Reconnect your electrical connector. Go ahead and start up the vehicle, let it run for a little while. If it still feels like you're having some of the symptoms that we had talked about earlier, it's a good idea to turn off the vehicle and disconnect the negative battery terminal. You'd want to leave that off for a little while, maybe about an hour or so. After that, go ahead and reconnect it. By disconnecting the negative battery terminal, it's going to make it so the monitors and the adaptives inside the vehicle's computer are going to reset. Essentially, it's going to relearn what's going on. After that, you can go ahead and start up the vehicle. Take it for a road test. Should feel fine, and you might even notice that you have a little bit better fuel economy. Now, I hope you liked the video. I hope you found it interesting. If there was something in the video that you think somebody else might like, go ahead and share it with them. It would mean everything to me. If you liked the video, or even loved the video, go ahead and smash on that like button for me. It would mean the world. While you're at it, go ahead and subscribe, ring the bell. That way you, all of your friends, can be kept up with all of our latest content. Thanks. As I had mentioned, air is going to be... I want to say that. Yeah, I do. Would be an issue with your fuel economy. It takes you a little bit longer. What? Period. That was pretty good.